What's a basic skill that still shocks you when adults don't know how to do it? Story 1. Communicating calmly. It is shocking how many adults expect compliance when they are so darn unpleasant. Answer. My workplace went from having a butt-kissing, spineless manager who always threw us under the bus even when the customer was 100 in the wrong, to a small handful of managers and regionals who have been happy to whip out the banhammer. A lot of our problem customers have FAFO, and it's been glorious. Manager who recently left hired a new girl who is just the poster child for good customer service. Customer called her a meanie for something out of her control. He's no longer a customer. We need to stop normalizing being abusive to staff. Story 2. I'd say basic fact-checking. People don't seem to know how to check a source or multiple sources and validate something. When I do it, people look at me like, Gandalf. What wizardry is this? Answer. I have a friend like this, always asking me stuff. I'm like, just research it. She always looks mystified. Then I'll research something and find out tons about it. And I tell her, and she says, I'm so smart. She will also believe what anyone tells her, and she will believe fear-mongering on social media. So I'll fact-check and tell her it's not true. And again, she is impressed by how smart I am. I'm not that smart. I just have the basic skill of fact-checking and research. Story 3. Spatial awareness and etiquette in public spaces. 100 of the time people gather in walkways, forcing anyone using the walkway's entryways. Entryways always at bars or parties. The bar could be empty while the entryway is impassable. To walk around them. That, or they stop walking right in front of you as well, not checking, as they should if they were in a car, to look to see if someone is coming before crossing pathways. It's so simple, and yet it seems as if it's flat out impossible for people to acknowledge. Answer. I'm convinced elevators turn off 25 of the population's brains. If you're going to 12 and I'm going to 8, we're stopping at 8 first. It really doesn't matter who got on first. Yes, you actually have to press the button for the floor you want. You will get no sympathy from anyone else on there when you sigh and say, oh shoot, that was my floor, and then don't get off the elevator until the very top floor. Some people are actually uncomfortable getting into crowded elevators. Do not hold the door open and try to convince them to get on when they've already said no. You're wasting everyone's time. And my personal Delba 100, do not stand 0.002 inches from the actual physical door and then act shocked when other people need you to move to get on off. Yes, it's crowded. Yes, you were the last person on. No, there is literally no way for people to get on or off the elevator without touching you to get out of the only available opening. You can afford the 4 steps it takes to step out and back in. I promise. Story 4. Critical thinking. Too many people just taking information that is spoon-fed to them and accepting it as fact. Take 30 seconds and think things through. Story 5. Apologize. Doubling down does nothing when you're on the wrong but extends something that could be over and help you grow as a person. Story 6. Cooking. People treat the ability of cooking as some amazing skill that few have. But cooking for yourself is one of the most basic tools you should have to be able to keep yourself alive. Answer. My boyfriend wasn't allowed in the kitchen at his parents' place, so I taught him the basics of how to read a recipe, what certain words mean, etc. He learnt in my parents' and then my kitchen and carried on himself when he left home. 16 years later, he is the main cook in our house. I'm totally okay with being on cleanup duty. He cooks better than his mom. Shh. Story 7. I learned recently that my early 20s niece doesn't know how to tell time on an analog clock because they don't teach that anymore in school. Story 8. Have a quick confrontational conversation that will take less than 5 minutes and prevent a lifetime of misunderstandings and awkwardness. Seriously, why can't people just do it? Story 9. Simple finances. Not about investing or interest rates or that. But basically, yes, you can afford this. No, you cannot afford this. Yes, if you get this on sale, you save money. Yes, if you cut out a Starbucks a day, you save money. If you pay off your credit card, you will have more money after. Answer: I had a coworker whose husband and her constantly complained about money. They just viewed things as month to month. Can they afford that this month? She would owe on a used vehicle, get 2 or 3 years paid off, then something would need repairs. Well, they couldn't afford the repair, so they'd trade it in for a vehicle that would end up with a similar monthly payment but be paid off in another 5 to 7 years. But the way they saw it, they saved money because they didn't have that repair expense anymore. A coworker and I tried our best to explain interest rates, suggested she get a small loan from the bank for the repair so one day she wouldn't have a car payment, etc. But to no avail. Story 10. Reading. I don't mean being illiterate. The number of people I see walk up to doors with signs telling them it's locked or the wrong way, or please go find an employee, and they struggle for several minutes without reading the signs. Answer: here's the thing. There's a thing called functional illiteracy, which is when you can read, you can write, but the words entering your eyeballs can't quite enter your skull and make way into your brain. It is quite like that sketch of Man Ray trying to return Patrick's wallet. You can guide them, you can point at them, you have them read the signage, agree that they can read it, but they still can't quite make what was on it. The org that monitors it in our country was recently celebrating that functional illiteracy went down from 40 to 30 in the last decade. That still means roughly 1 in 3 people are unable to grasp moderately complex written instructions, like exit ahead. Story 11. Being able to search for information instead of asking others to do it for them. Of course, that would eliminate 80 of Reddit posts. Answer: yeah. There are definitely ones where it seems like having other people's opinions, expertise, experience is important, or where it is a very specific question that can't easily be Googled without actually knowing what you're doing or without being already well-versed in something. But I definitely agree that there are so many questions that are so stupid simply because they can be Googled using the same title they used on Reddit. Ones I have seen that I can remember is asking if a 2 bill is worth anything. I can understanding having not seen one before and thinking it may be rare and valuable, but Google would have sufficed to answer. Even if it is a bill coin with a specific year or misprint, surely Googling that same error year would suffice as well. ELOLA. Story 12. When a traffic light is blinking red in all directions at an intersection, it's a 4-way stop, dummies. Story 13. Cleaning. You'd be amazed how many adults don't understand that floors need to be swept, vacuumed regularly, and hard floors mopped regularly too, with hot water, not cold. Or they don't understand that cleaning the toilet is more than just using the brush in the bowl. The seat needs to be cleaned too, as a bare minimum. Story 14. I'm routinely aghast when adults, especially people aged 30-45, don't know their way around a computer. Answer: I was de facto tech support at my last job. Not a single one of the people there knew what a folder was, even though they claimed to be good with computers in the interview. Can you help me? My file is gone. What do you mean it's gone? I can't find the file I was working on, it's gone. The computer must have deleted it. Now I have to start over again. Where did you save it? Confused Pikachu face. Yes, when you hit save, what folder did you save it to? Crickets. Explain about folders. Wait a week. Repeat. Story 15. Basic cooking. I don't expect people to be able to turn out a 5-course dinner worthy of being served before royalty, but I do expect them to be able to feed themselves a healthy, balanced diet. It shocks the hell out of me when people struggle to even manage to heat up a pre-prepared meal, let alone make instant ramen. Answer: reminds me of a former colleague of mine, an ENT surgeon who received schooling and has performed in action infinitely more daunting tasks thinking on his feet to diagnose patients, genuinely saving lives, the whole shebang. He said he can't cook pasta. Like, not even fresh pasta, just dried pasta from the box. He still didn't seem to quite get it after I explained, you boil it in salted water for a couple minutes. Basically, almost verbatim. Honestly, I think it's more about not wanting to know how to cook for some people. Story 16. Basic math. I remember the time where my family thought I was some kind of genius because I compared the price to area ratio of 2 pizzas to determine which was the better deal. They thought that required some expert-level math. Answer: was waiting for this one to appear. A year or so back, our treasurer was rhyming off a list of payments she'd received. I'd reply back with a running total. After the third or fourth one, she asked if I was doing that in my head. We were standing next to each other, and there was nothing in my hands, not sure what response she was expecting. I swear she was ready to throw me in the lake to see if I'd float. 10 years my senior, and couldn't conceive of adding numbers in your head. Story 17. Cover your darn mouth when you cough. Did everyone collectively forget that we endured a pandemic not too long ago? Just do it. You're not a child. You won't break any bones covering your mouth. It's not an energy-intensive task to cover one's own mouth. The same hand you use to eat with, use it to cover your cough. As if it isn't bad enough you being around other people in a crowded environment, spreading your germs around shamelessly like STDs, cover your cough. We don't need to share your misery. Anyway, that's how I nearly died from long COVID. Story 18. Not owning or understanding how to use the most basic of tools. The number of times I've had to teach friends how to use a screwdriver is maddening. Story 19. I'm a guy. The older I get, the more it bemuses me that some men view cooking and keeping their place clean as woman's work. It's not woman's work for a guy to be able to sustain himself. And no woman ever looked at the apartment of a guy who lived like a pig and didn't know his way around a kitchen and thought, wow, what a manly man. Expecting a grown woman to do all your cooking and cleaning is how a 7-year-old child views their mother. We're not supposed to stay at that stage of development our entire lives. Story 20. Sewing. I'm not talking about making a quilt or a stuffed toy. I'm talking about putting a needle in a thread and simply closing a tear or repairing something instead of buying to replace. In 41 memoirs and learned basics and how to use a sewing machine with home economics at school and have self-taught myself after. I really wish these skills were still taught in schools along with cooking. It's more than crafting, it's teaching self-reliance. Answer: they haven't taught home EC in decades. I taught myself how to sew as a teenager with books from the library. YouTube was still in the chocolate rain era, not particularly useful for tutorials yet. Clothes are so cheaply made nowadays, it's rarely worth it to repair them when they fall apart. In the past, when I could wear clothes for years with only minor repairs? Sure, but I'm not spending 10 in materials and an hour of my time to patch holes in a pair of pants that cost 10 new and are just going to have a different failure in 10 washes. Story 21. Basic navigation. Without a GPS. I live in the middle of nowhere on a mountain. Cell service is spotty. This situation has happened no less than 3 times in the past year, including yesterday. I have a DoorDash order on the way. It is getting close to the promised delivery time. I get a call from DoorDash. The driver needs to speak with me. I answer. Driver: yeah, I can't find your house, and my GPS stopped working, so... Me: no worries. Where are you? I can talk you in. Driver: I'm on my street already. Me: oh, okay, well just keep coming up. We live a little past the top. Driver: yeah. I went up there and I didn't see it. I should note here that all of the mailboxes on the mountain road I live on are glaringly obvious, and it was daytime. Me: then you just didn't come far enough. Did you go past my house number? Driver: No, but I couldn't find it. Me. Okay, but house numbers keep counting. You just have to keep going until you find my house number driver. Yeah, but my GPS went out. So, me. Right. But if you are looking for 2000 and the numbers are going 1990, 1992, 1994, then you know you're heading in the right direction to reach 2000. So, you just have to keep coming up. Driver. Well, my GPS stopped working, so of the 3 times, 2 of them I had to literally stay on the phone while they drove on the correct road in the correct direction, insisting over and over they didn't see it, with me saying just keep coming to literally lead them to my driveway like a toddler. And the third? They gave up. You are reading that correctly. I had them on the phone with DoorDash support, and they just said, "We can't deliver it without a GPS," and drove away in the opposite direction. Baffling. I said basic navigation, but really just knowing how house numbers work. Even one side odd the other. Both sides go up in the same direction. If number you're trying to find current number you can see, and numbers are going up. Keep going, otherwise, turn around. It's not that hard. And why on earth would you take a job as a delivery driver when you can't do that? This felt good. Thanks, Reddit. Answer. Glad you found some catharsis, my dude. You could try leaving a note in the delivery instructions that when the GPS signal goes out, just keep driving on X Street until the mailbox numbers count up to yours. At least that way they are forewarned and have it in writing. Then, you just have to hope your driver can read, which according to this thread, is unlikely. Story 22. Speaking specifically about the USA, an entirely car-dependent nation. You know how many adults have pulled up to my shop over the years and asked me to put air in their tires? While parked next to the complimentary free air pump in the parking lot. That when pointed out to them, they say they don't know how to use? I'm sorry? You're a grown jerk adult and you can't manage to put air into your car tires? The most basic of maintenance on one of the most expensive things you own? Story 23. When someone is terrible at parking, especially when they keep backing in and out in exactly the same direction. Story 24. Understanding when it is not a good time to ask questions, but doing what you are told. If the tone your partner is using is urgent enough and is telling you to pack your things and go, or to close the car window in a red light, or to not go through a dark alley, you first do it, then you ask questions. Story 25. Being a decent human being. Why is it so fudge hard for any people to just accept that some people have different ideas, ABD beliefs, without dehumanizing them for it? Story 26. When they lack basic manners. It doesn't matter if we come from different walks of life, etc., etc. Having basic manners is the bare minimum of being human. Story 27. Basic communication, especially with their partner. So many relationships and families are extremely dysfunctional because people can't communicate properly. Doesn't help when reactions are never good, so why would anyone want to talk to each other when everything is a battle? Secrets are kept, trust is broken, things get bottled up and blown up all the time. All because people just can't have an effective conversation with each other. It boggles my mind how many people are like this, and they wonder why they dislike their family, can't keep a partner, their kids don't talk to them, and friends keep distant at best. So much can be settled if people could talk and also listen effectively. Story 28. You don't have to swing your car out to turn. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people almost sideswipe other drives or swing halfway into another lane just to make a right or left turn. You're driving a Toyota Camry, not a god-darn 18-wheeler. Story 29. Basic sewing. I have heard so many people say they have trashed a shirt because of a rip or a button fell off. You don't need an expensive sewing machine to do little mending, just a 5 sewing kit can address all of that. Story 30. Knowing how to be a good person. I've read and heard multiple say they don't understand people having morals and ethics without being religious. It's easy. Treat others how you want to be treated. You don't have to complicate it with laws or rules. You don't have to be in fear of an invisible sky daddy. Just be nice. Story 31. Basic IT literacy in the corporate workspace, quite common amongst the fresh graduates, which surprised me as they're the gen that fully grew up with tech. Answer: young people's technology experience is now increasingly oriented around phones and tablets, so when you hand them a laptop or sit them in front of a desktop, many of them are out of their element. Keyboard and mouse, files and directories, not tools they're all that familiar with. I think young millennials were the peak age range for gaining PC skills before they entered the workforce. Story 32. The ability to be considerate of others around them, especially in public. Egg standing in front of a metro train door instead of letting them out first, same with lifts, stopping at the bottom of the escalator and blocking the way. Standing in the middle of the street perfectly blocking the path for others, versus standing to the side where others can then still pass easily, allowing their literal screaming child to run up and down anywhere public and being a nuisance to others, riding their bikes on clearly walking areas, especially busy ones, smoking in the metro, etc. Story 33. Legible writing. I can understand messy writing, but when the writing is completely unreadable, it makes me wonder, how did this person made it through school? And their excuse is just, that's how I write. Story 34. Lacking the ability to look up an easily answered question using a search engine, yet having the ability to post the question on social media. Story 35. Cooking. I never learned. My first girlfriend was Latin and she was shocked I couldn't cook. Taught me everything. Now I'm shocked more people aren't taught in my country. Story 36. When they can't sew. I'm not talking about sewing a whole outfit, but about sewing on a button or mending a small tear. I mean, come on. It's not that hard. Story 37. Let their children make mistakes. I'm not talking about major dangers here. I'm talking basic stuff like letting their kids learn to cook or sew or whatever by doing. So many useless young adults due to helicopter parenting. Story 38. Use hotkeys to shoot on a keyboard instead of using the mouse. I get looked at like I'm a sorcerer because I can Ctrl-P. Story 39. An adult family member who didn't know how to blow his nose. His wife noticed he'd rub his nose raw, wiping snot, and she asked, "Why don't you just blow your nose?" Story 40. Punctuality. If you say you're going to be somewhere on time, I expect you to stand on your commitment and be there. Don't tell me, be there at 7 p.m. and you show up at 7:30 without telling me beforehand. Story 41. Changing the oil in a car yourself, changing a flat tire, putting dirty dishes into the dishwasher instead of piling up in the sink, replacing an empty roll of toilet paper instead of leaving the new roll on the vanity top. Story 42. Turn off the water to their property. Number one thing they should know. Laundry and cooking are also important onces. Story 43. Adding numbers. I am always amazed when people say they are broke but do DoorDash a few times a week and buy Starbucks every day. Story 44. Ironing clothes. Feels wild that others never have learned. Edited to add, even if we all as a society have stopped wearing clothes that need ironing, etc. Story 45. Read a map, know where they are. Not as shocking as basic geography as well, like knowing approximately what elevation they live at. I tell people, oh yeah, I live at 3,000 feet, but have to drive down to 1,500 feet to go to the store, and it causes my ears to pop. And they look at me like these numbers are foreign concepts, and mountains and valleys don't exist except in pictures. Story 46. I recently went to an upscale wedding. The bride's mom was a PhD in some medical field, a lovely, lovely person, but I watched her use a knife and fork, and I swear pygmies in the jungle would do a better job holding a fork to eat. Story 47. Basic personal hygiene, cleaning your home, and how to do the laundry. Also, cooking for yourself, as many have already mentioned. So many YouTube videos that are available to help people learn the basics. Most of all, people just wait until the last minute, and then it's more stressful and takes longer. For example, if you clean your bathrooms every Sunday morning, there isn't a buildup of grime and it's quick and easy. You don't need to use a million types of cleaners. Find a multi-purpose cleaner you like and use it for everything. Maybe 2 cleaners if you need something different for the mirror. Get a good haircut, eyebrow maintenance on a regular basis. Schedule it so you have it on your calendar. Take a shower every day. Just because you can't smell anything doesn't mean no one else can. Do your laundry on a regular basis, all of it. Sheets, towels, blankets, clothes. Again, have a schedule so it doesn't pile up. Wear clean clothes every day. If you have a crazy work schedule and are overwhelmed, hire someone to help you get on top of cleaning or meal prep. Story 48. Laundry. Barring some special clothing items that require a bit more care, laundry using machines is so simple. Toss clothes in machine, fill detergent area, close lid, turn on machine. Take clothes out of machine, toss in dryer sheet, optional, close door, turn on machine. Sure, you learn when not to dry stuff on high heat and how to not overload the machine through trial and error and other mishaps to avoid, but a person should hopefully learn how to do these things as a tween. And yet, so many older teens, new adults get out of their parents' house for the first time and are absolutely mystified at how to take care of their clothing. Story 49. How to use the toilet brush. If you leave shoot behind and let things escalate, you're literally in for some tough shoot later. Admittedly, and in my experience, it's only construction workers who are this horrible. They know how to operate a big jerk Liebherr who knows what, but not a friggin' toilet brush. Unbelievable. Story 50. Not so much a skill, but what I thought was basic knowledge in the English-speaking part of the world. The other day, I had to explain to a room filled with adults who Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde were. We were watching the 2017 The Mummy with Tom Cruise. They, at least 5, all over the age of 25, had never heard of such a monster. Story 51. Being able to leave home on time. Friends stayed with me this weekend. It took us an extra hour and they were still wandering around doing nothing. Like, hey, this isn't a hotel, but it's past checkout time. Story 52. Writing. I'm a technical editor, and it still shocks me how many people with advanced degrees have no idea how to write simple paragraphs. Grammar, punctuation, spelling, and basic sentence structure no longer seem to matter when universities hand out degrees. Story 53. They don't know how to manage anger without shouting, apologizing without making excuses, saying, "I don't know," instead of spouting nonsense, respecting common spaces, listening without interrupting, understanding the tone of a conversation, admitting a mistake without feeling attacked, distinguishing an opinion from a fact, not treating employees badly in shops, speaking on the phone without shouting as if they were alone in the world, understanding that education is not weakness and not necessarily wanting to always have the last word. Story 54. Microsoft Excel. I don't expect the super advanced stuff, but they should know how to do arithmetic with 2 numbers or sum a column. Story 55. Self-defense, at least at a basic level. At least know how to throw one punch without breaking your fingers or sidestep if someone dashes at you like a football running back, LOL. Story 56. Writing checks in cursive writing. I met someone in her 30s who didn't know what a mail opener was, so to use it, the basic handheld kind. I was training her in something for an accounting position. She quit after 2 days. Story 57. Writing in and reading cursive. It's not taught in public schools anymore, at least the area I live in. And it blows my mind when a young adult tells me they can't read what I've written because cursive looks like another language to them. Story 58. Touch typing. That is, typing without looking at the keys. That was a basic class pretty much required in high school, way before computers were a thing. I learned in 9th grade, on a manual typewriter. Many of my coworkers would get a lot more work done in a lot less time if they didn't have to hunt and peck. Story 59. Knowing about things that happened before you were born. I don't even mean ancient history. I mean stuff like the last 40 years, if you're 20. Story 60. Googling, or searching the web in general. A lot of adults ask me for help in doing menial tasks, which can be learned by doing simple Google searches. Most of them even offered to pay me money for my help. Story 61. To listen to another person. A lot of people goes their whole life not knowing when to be silent and listen instead of giving their 2 cents. A lot of times, advices only works for the one giving it. Story 62. All those cars behind you in the left lane? They're there because you won't get out of the fudge way. Put the phone down and move over, dumbass. Story 63. That the people in front of you on the plane get to deplane first. People in row 37 on their feet and ready to charge as soon as the thing stops. Like, where TF do you think you're going? Story 64. Basic cooking. It's crazy how quickly all the pasta and cereal disappeared when the COVID lockdowns were announced. The I can only boil water crowd. Story 65. Eat without making a huge mess. I work in a restaurant, and the amount of adults that will leave a bunch of food on the table and on the floor is astonishing to me. I get it if it's kids or something, and I really don't mind cleaning up after them as one. It's my job. And 2, I can visibly see how stressed so many parents are taking their kids into a restaurant. But the adults, do you eat like that at home? I'm not even mad about the mess, I'm just so confused. Like, are you having to sweep the entire area around your table after every single meal? Or perhaps it's just some sort of restaurant phenomena that causes them to lose that skill altogether. Story 66. Laundry. The amount of grown adults I know who have no clue what can even be washed in a machine, what should be hung up to air dry, how much detergent to use, or even just the fact that fabric softener and dryer sheets are kind of bullshit. Adult women throwing all their bras in the dryer. And swimsuits. It eliminate me. Elastics can last years and years with minimal damage if you just air dry them. Story 67. Reading. It's utterly staggering how many times I hear an adult person begin attempting to read something aloud only for them to then stutter and start-stop or completely misread words, seemingly without even realizing it. Story 68. Unblock a toilet. I work in a bar and customers at a weekend are animals. I've regularly opened the bar in the morning and come into a blocked toilet because, and I quote, I don't know how to deal with that. It's bullshit. They've just left the job for the next person because they didn't want to do it. I may or may not have come into a blocked toilet this morning and needed to vent about it. Story 69. Listening. Such an easy thing to do, yet most adults can't or won't do it. I notice that a lot of folks are unable to actively listen when someone is telling them something. They will just sit there waiting for their chance to talk, not hearing or caring about anything you've said to them. It's really strange to me, BC. I feel like it doesn't take any effort to just hear someone. I've found this to be the case with 7 of 10 adults. Story 70. Honestly, none of them. People hear, my parents didn't give me chores, and think the child is lucky. In reality, it's often parents who never really took care of themselves and passed that on. An adult who had to learn all basic skills in adulthood. Story 71. Non-confrontational communication. I've been with my spouse for quite a long time, and we've never had one honest-to-goodness argument. Why? Because when we're frustrated with one another, we bring it up calmly, discuss what happened, and make a mutual promise to do better. If we disagree on something, we lay out our pros and cons and come to a decision together. We compromise. It's so much easier than people make it seem. Respect yourself and others and it'll come naturally. Story 72. Bring groceries home from the store and cook their own meals. In the US, we seem to have moved to a situation where people think every meal has to be prepped in a restaurant. It's expensive, wasteful, and deeply unhealthy. Story 73. Clear a firearm. Don't care if you like them or dislike them, everyone should know how to clear the chamber. Story 74. Discomfort. Part of being an adult in a group relationship means occasionally setting aside our own preferences or tolerating some circumstances for the sake of others' happiness. Not saying you should ignore your feelings or suffer, but flexibility and patience are signs of maturity. Story 75. Say no, thank you. I'm not interested when someone comes to the door trying to sell you something. Instead, they plan out an elaborate scheme of how to avoid them or go into hiding until they leave. Story 76. How to organize a home and keep it clean. I have multiple educated friends with good jobs whose homes' apartments look and smell like dorm rooms. Story 77. How to count back change from a cash transaction. My mother taught it to me at 8 years old for my first lemonade stand. It embarrasses me to watch it happen. It's becoming more frequent. Story 78. Being able to read an analog clock and/or understand textual representations of time, e.g., 10:15. Story 79. Reading a tape measure. Like, even if my family didn't teach me, we learned that shit in the 2nd grade. Driving a manual car. Knowing how to swim. Story 80. Basic hygiene. I just discovered through a conversation that one of my roommates does not wash his hands after using the toilet. Bonus points, a lot of men do not wash their butt, lol. I am also a male. Story 81. There are so many that leave me scratching my head that grown jerk people can't do. Basic home maintenance like plumbing, electrical basic carpentry, basic car repairs like oil changes, brakes, spark plugs, Fred Flintstone level computer shoot like sending, uploading PDFs and stuff, basic cooking and knife skills like chopping, dicing, chiffonade julienne, or making a dough or a soup base, or any sort of mirepoix. Story 82. Listening without interrupting. Like, bro, I'm not done talking, this ain't a podcast. I don't gotta jump in every 4 sec with her hot take. Story 83. Cleaning. Still can't imagine how some don't know how to properly clean a toilet, tiles, or even do laundry. Basic hygiene isn't a luxury, it's life skills 101. Story 84. Admit when they were wrong. People as a whole have zero humility. For being such a Christian nation, people across the board have lost the ability to be openly wrong and allow themselves to learn and grow. Story 85. Cursive. When you read these beautifully written documents from the 18th and 19th centuries and realize that the 21st century has so little of it except from specialty artists. My handwriting is awful, but I can at least read and write in cursive, or script as some people now call it. Story 86. I give people a lot of grace because not everyone is privileged enough to experience life the same way I do. That being said, I side-eye people who have been homeowners for 20 years in the same house, who don't know how to do things like turn the water supply off for their toilet or even know where their fuse box is. Story 87. A basic skill that still shocks me when adults don't know how to do it is reading an analog clock. It's such a fundamental part of everyday life, especially in public spaces like train stations, schools, and offices where analog clocks are still common. It's surprising when someone relies entirely on digital time because they never learned or forgot how to read a standard clock face. Another one. Basic email etiquette like knowing how to write a clear subject line or not hitting reply all unnecessarily. You'd think it would be second nature by adulthood. Story 88. Read. This relates to work, but the amount of people that don't know how to read emails when the pertinent information is right in front of them, yet they still ask questions, unreal. Story 89. Identification of one's own biases. It's a key part of critical thinking that we tend to gloss over. Everyone has biases, but they can be huge stumbling blocks in our daily lives and interactions with others. Story 90. Emotional regulation. People who blow up at the slightest inconvenience and everyone else in their orbit gets to feel their wrath because of it. They take no accountability for how their actions affect others, and anyone who calls them out is the problem. Story 91. How to not ask karma farming questions to askreddit that have been asked literally thousands of times before. Story 92. Not really a skill, but shopping at a grocery store. Had enough boomer men come through not knowing where anything is, not knowing what they're doing, not knowing how to push a cart, not knowing how to pay with a card. Excuse is always, my wife always does the shopping. I work customer service, so I try to be helpful and non-judgmental as I can, but holy hell, how do you go 65 years of your life never shopping at a grocery store, just letting your mom and then your wife do it all for you? I mean, the whole chip payment thing has been around for like 10,